You have to actually give Sean a little back up on this part. He never wants to be on his fucking phone.
No.
When I was with him all the time, he would never have his fucking phone on him. I swear to God.
I hate my phone.
He's
phone,
anti-phone.
I because people call me and then they want to talk to me, and I don't want to talk to 90% of the people who call me.
That's
sorry,
weird because
I
really want to call you and I don't because I feel like you don't want to talk to me, and you just proved it.
No, you're in the 10%, Brandon. You should want to call me.
I mean it. Like when we text you, 90% of the times you don't want to text back to you either. So I mean,
I don't either. I just don't want to be. I don't want to be.
It becomes a three-way text message.
All I do is all day is answer the phone and talk to people and provide answers. When I'm not in like work mode, I don't want to do shit. Yeah. Welcome to another episode of season 4 of 3.5 Gentlemen, the podcast where the 3 of the 4 hosts provide a refined and intellectual analysis of movies from our private collections, and one of us tries desperately to keep up. Brandon, we'll let you decide which host is which, but for now, my name is Sean, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts, Jeremiah, who's going to have to do some editing over Brandon.
What up, yo?
Eddie?
I have no quote for this movie because I was at Vertigo watching this.
Did it have any dialogue is the question. And Brandon.
I say that Jeremy doesn't edit my voice away, and just everybody can know that Sean is terrible about everything in life. Except it doesn't matter. Except the things that don't matter. No. He is a fucking pro.
So, with season 4, we're picking movies that we think will be fun to talk about. Some of these movies will be from our private collections, while others will be new releases in theaters and streaming. Additionally, throughout the season, we'll be including some new releases in theaters and streaming, as well as a TV season or two.
As with every review we give, our goal is to answer one simple question: how many drinks does it take to get through the film we've just watched? Now, at the end of the podcast, we'll rate the movie based on a scale of 0 to 5, 0 being the perfect film that you can watch stone cold sober, and 5 being sort of the film that makes you want to jump off a bell tower of a California mission and fall to your death, not once, but twice. Twice.
With that, what movie do we have spiraling toward us tonight, gentlemen?
See that spiraling? God, I'm good at what I do. All right. Tonight we have one of Alfred Hitchcock's most well-known films, 1958's Vertigo. Vertigo follows a former San Francisco police detective named John Scotty Ferguson. Don't know how we get the Scotty out of John, but we do. Who needs to deal with his personal demons.
Scotty's his middle name. Scotty's his middle name.
Oh, we got that. Good backup.
Okay, now I got that.
Yeah, I missed that.
All right, we can end it there and just talk about something else.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and. Well, anyway, he needs to deal with his personal demons, including his crushing fear of heights, while he becomes obsessed with the hauntingly beautiful woman he has been hired by her husband to trail. This movie stars James Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy is not his middle name, though. And Kim Novak. Vertigo has an IMDb rating of 8.3 out of 10 and has a critic score of 92% and an audience score of 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. Eddie, I want to just go get into your review because nobody makes it through the whole movie.
You know why? Because nobody has done a review since 1959 on this movie.
As with every movie we review, we try to pair our selection with a cocktail that we feel reflects that film. So, Ed, why don't you take us through the cocktail that we will be enjoying this evening?
I'm going to have a drink.
Tonight, we'll be drinking the Vertigo cocktail, which was created by a San Francisco bartender. For this drink, you'll need 2 ounces of Alvarino.
Amaro.
Yeah. A half ounce of lemon juice, 4 ounces of ginger ale, and combine the lemon juice to a highball glass. And then top it off with ginger ale and stir it up and enjoy.
I feel like you're
gonna get gas when you fucking drink this shit.
That was probably the worst description of a cocktail I've ever heard in my life.
Listen, guys.
So you do
basically you combine the 3 and you put it into a glass, a highball, and you stir it up and you drink it.
Glass. So when I saw highball, I thought that was misspelled as like highball glass. He fucked up.
Highball. There's a highball, lowball, martini, champagne.
So
wine.
It's 4 ounces of ginger ale.
Yeah. 4 ounces of ginger ale.
And then you top it off with a ginger ale again.
No.
Is that correct?
No. It's 4 ounces of ginger. There's only
2 ounces.
So really,
you float
2 ounces
of the ginger
Averna Amaro.
Got it.
1.5 ounce of lemon juice, and then 4 ounces of ginger.
Just half
then you
ounce of
float
lemon
it,
juice.
and then you
Gotcha.
stir it.
Gotcha.
Half ounce of
What'd
lemon
I
juice.
say?
Jeremy's going to take a sip
You said
right now.
1.5.
He's going to tell us what he thinks.
I'm going to take a sip right now
Right now.
because
let's
right
see-
now
let's see how
I
this-
feel
let us
like
know.
I made the
bad
drinks.
boy is.
Yeah.
actually I'm kind of like, afraid of heights right now, so I don't know what I'm going to do here.
Well, it's very ginger ale-y.
Listen,
Yeah,
That's
I
what
would
the
rather
web- that's
go
what the
more
website
lemon
says.
juice.
go with more lemon juice.
Okay,
Listen,
Not our best-
all of them.
Yeah, more lemon
not
juice
all of them
than
are
not
winners.
our,
ginger ale.
not our best.
Not all
not
of them
our
are the
best
it
effort,
drinks.
just
That's
like-
all I'm saying.
Just
More
like
butterbeer.
Alfred Hitchcock. Okay. All right, so let's start here.
Whoa! No! I want
this
to
is my
wait, Sean.
pick.
I want to wait.
Hold on.
Hold on. Wait. I want to. Is that a criticism? Yeah,
Mine.
Sean. Is that a criticism
pick.
of your pick?
This is
You
a
should've picked
criticism of my pick. So,
Wow.
You should have picked this fucking drink
So
too.
hold on. So let's just start with this movie is like
Dated?
on the list of greatest movies of all time. It's iconic. It's blah blah blah. And I picked it because I remember it being like real twisty and interesting and
How long
different.
has it been since you've
And
seen it?
Not that long. That's what's so
Really?
funny. Probably
Okay.
3 years.
Oh wow.
Okay.
And I remember really enjoying it. And really, there was this huge, like, you were going along in one movie, and then it became a completely different movie. And I remember the twist being, holy shit, like, it just hit you in the face.
Yeah.
And I did not have that experience watching it this time.
Well,
so
I want to go ahead
let's go.
and say real quick though that I realized that this is a movie. This is my first time seeing it, and Eddie and Jer, I think this is you guys'
Okay.
first time seeing it. And I was actually pleasantly surprised at the beginning because it was nothing like I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be like a spy movie, and totally not at all. So I was really pleasantly surprised
Okay.
at the beginning. We'll get to the middle, the 3/4 spot, the end, and we'll just jump out a window.
The very, very beginning, I was surprised with the whole like chase scene with the cops and them jumping, and I was like, okay, like this is gonna be the style of the movie. And then right after that, I'm not gonna lie, like I fell off. I felt like I was on.
You're
I felt like
spiraling.
all of a sudden I was on something. I was like, did I miss a fucking movie before this movie? I don't know. I got lost a little bit with a lot of dialogue without dialogue. And
Yeah.
that's how
Which
I felt.
is so frustrating because I love Jimmy Stewart. I
I read something about Hitchcock, explaining this movie to someone like interviewing with him, and he goes, "Yeah, this movie's about a man that wants to go to bed with a woman who's dead. That's pretty much what the movie's about."
Well, and if you peel back, so
61.
look at
61 on the AFI Top 100.
that's what I'm saying. I understand that. Hold on.
That needs to be.
I
updated.
understand that this movie has major flaws, but I do want to focus on some of the really kind of interesting parts about it. Number one is I think the cinematography and the costumes and the colors of this movie are brilliant. When they're in that red velvet room and she comes in with that black dress with that green, it's just like she's stunning. Kim Novak is
Sean, who's that girl? Who's the designer? Was it Edith?
Edith Head,
Head,
yeah.
Okay.
And she did most of, if not all, Hitchcock's stuff. But the way that Kim Novak enters the room when you see her in that black dress, I think that is what like 1940s, 50s, 60s starlets were. And then there's a scene right at the beginning where they're in that same bar with the red velvet, and the camera playfully goes between not her full face and not his full face, like they're trying to look at each other, but they haven't quite caught each other's eyes. And I thought that cinematographically was just one of the most
Nice job,
brilliant ways to thank you. One of the most brilliant ways to introduce two characters that did not want to see each other, but would end up, kind of falling in love. I thought that was kind of really super interesting.
Yeah.
Can I ask you something now? That scene was so fucking stunning, but it felt like it was not real. Can I ask you something? Was this film in black and white and then they enhanced the color on top
No.
of it? No, so that was just all fucking design and just cinematography and everything.
Yeah, if you look at the beginning of this
Holy
movie,
shit.
one of the reasons why it's on AFI's list is because it was started out in black
color.
and white. I don't know it was one of the first Hitchcocks in Technicolor, and then all of a sudden these colors. But
It
think
felt
about
like
this:
3D, dude. It felt
these
3D.
colors
It
were
was fucking amazing.
so, and that's Hitchcock used the color palette that was so gorgeous. And I will say this, Brandon, you got to watch this movie again. You got to sit through it and fight through it because, like Jeremy said, this movie is about a man who's tethered very tenuously to reality.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of problems, a lot of mental problems with his vertigo and with his, but he also, if you weave through the colors of the scenes, so it's leading you down into this rabbit hole of, is he fucking insane? Like, does this girl even exist? Yeah. Is he like? Is all of this just made up?
I was asking that question.
I want to add this last part regarding to the guy Edith Head. I read something that she used color to highlight the state of mind to each character to this film, and I thought that was really fucking cool.
Yeah.
No, I do feel like the actor and actress they played the part, and I feel like the backdrop and the build of the movie, everything was like on point with that part. It was the whole first hour of the movie, though. I just felt like there wasn't enough, like, I don't know, like the script wasn't written well, or I was just like, there was a lot of like, no, you know what? Jeremiah told me that this was like you ever watched the show You?
Yeah.
That's what I realized halfway into this. I was like, oh, this guy's
a stalker. Yeah,
I get it. And he's all about the girl, and she dies, and he thinks he dies, and then he's about someone else that looks just like her, and this is pre-You, the show You on Netflix, and I was like, okay. Once I realized that, then I was able to dive into it, because I was really trying to find the first like 40 minutes. Is like, what is this about? What's the plot? It was hard for me to gather. I love that room though, Sean, when you said right when they almost like they notice each other, and that reminds me of like when you walk into a club and you see someone and then you look away, and then personally that person sees you too, but you don't really make eye contact. You have that feeling that you guys know you saw each other, and
electricity,
I agree. I like
electricity in the air.
Yeah, the electricity in the air and the vibe. You guys had something without even like seeing eye to eye. I do enjoy that. I enjoy that first part of them having that first contact without actually seeing each other.
Angel.
Brandon.
No, I think it's interesting, Ed, because for this season, you and I have agreed for the most part, but I'm going to disagree with you now. For me, the beginning of the film was actually the best part.
Oh, that's because you're bad. You're
but
wrong.
really, I thought, and I know
have to agree with you. Yeah,
we're jumping out, but as soon as she died, and then the big twist happened, which I know back in 1958, that was a major M. Night Shyamalan type twist. I get that, but the problem is the quality of the film and the plausibility of the actions. I thought were really good up until that halfway point. And I want to make sure that we talk about Midge, because Midge that was a disaster of a drop of a character. But I do want to last thing I want to say is cinematographically.
Okay.
Well, I just want to say cinematographically, the way that Hitchcock showed the vertigo, right? With the camera movement, the zooming and the panning, and the movement of the character.
Vertigo effect.
Fucking brilliant. Like, I mean, we're talking about just,
right.
Movies.
This is the first time you've ever seen it, right?
It is, and I think.
But how many directors have done this before? Use this element.
But Spike Lee uses this in almost every single one of his films, right? You zoom in as you move the camera. It's fucking brilliant. It's amazing.
Spielberg, Jaws.
Yes, yeah. So I do want to just give it props, because I'm going to tear it apart from here.
So, and I kind of want to, before you really tear it apart, I really want to dive into the plot, because the plot to me of this movie can be seen one of three ways. So he was hired basically to investigate where his friend's wife was going, right? That's basically the plot.
The possession.
He's no longer a police officer. Yeah, he's no longer a police officer. He's kind of bored. He's got vertigo.
He's got to have a shitload of money too. Like, how is he not working but affording all this shit? Yeah. I just like whatever.
Well, he's got a pension, but he finds out later. Also, you find out later that he's a fucking coward. Mm-hmm. Like, he didn't. When that guy gives that recitation about he didn't help the first time with the police officer who fell off the roof, it's kind of true. He didn't even he's this broken character, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that pissed me off when Midge is like, oh, the cop falling to his death wasn't your fault. I was literally pulling my hair out, because I'm like, that was 100% his fault.
It sort of was, yeah.
Midge, if you notice, she always has his back and supports him. Yeah, that's the rock for Ferguson.
So one of the theories of this movie,
Scotty, right?
that I think is very interesting, and I've read a couple of different things about it, is that Kim Novak's character, what's her name? I'm sorry.
It's either Madeline or Judy.
Yeah.
So Madeline,
Judy or Madeline.
So Madeline, basically, when she was at the mission, and you found that her life was mirroring, or she was being taken over by
Carlotta.
By the Carlotta,
yeah.
that her husband was actually was drugging her so that he could leave and take her money. And that's kind of a plot that I think got lost, if that was indeed one of the plots that got lost among the complexities of the camera work and the love that Hitchcock has of cinematography. That's one story that I thought was interesting. What I think is most interesting is the cloud that surrounds Jimmy Stewart's character.
Yeah,
you really don't know from the beginning what is real and what is not, what is his mind creating and what is not, because it's so segmented. So after he saves her in the water, he brings her home. He walks out of the room and she disappears. She doesn't just fucking get dressed and go. She vanishes, right?
Yeah.
And she gets in a car and drives away.
Yeah,
but then when she comes back the next morning, she's in this white, beautiful coat, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry about yesterday." She doesn't acknowledge necessarily that she left in the middle of the night or that she was with him, only that he saved her life. And so there's just these convoluted, contradictory points. And I'm not saying this movie's perfect. I'm not.
No, but I do want to clear something up.
It was disappointing.
I like how you said that, Sean.
But it was so fucking segmented and so choppy that you kind of had to question, fuck, is this guy just is this guy gaslighting her? Yeah. Is the husband gaslighting the wife? What's going on?
It was kind of Shutter Island with Scorsese.
Is he losing it also at the same time? Yeah.
So I do want to clarify something, because I hearing you talk, I apparently saw a different portion of the movie. So get this right. Kim Novak's character is Judy, who was hired to play the wife. She's not really the wife. And the wife. So here's the thing. My thought is that he had I know it was Hitchcock in 1958, but he had a dummy that he threw out, but it was actually the wife's body that he threw out and committed murder, right?
Yeah.
Is it okay? Yes. So then in that case,
that's a good point.
I'm good. But wait, when you're talking about her spacing out, we're not talking about.
But was Kim Novak hired?
I think she.
Well, was Kim Novak hired to play that character?
The person that you saw the whole time was Judy. That was the main person.
She was Judy.
Every time you saw her, that was Judy.
To play Madeline, yeah. And I think it was good. But
so that first part, she was supposed to just fall, she was supposed to fall in love with Scotty?
No.
Or what was that supposed to be?
No, she was just supposed to have him follow her, and then she was gonna jump. He couldn't go up the stairs, and the whole falling in love thing was just collateral damage.
The husband knew that he was going to plan this whole fucking thing and stage this whole death, knowing that his buddy Ferguson has a vertigo, and he knew exactly what he was going to set it up. It was a fucking plan of a plan and everything like that. Judy was Judy the whole time. And then she kind of accidentally fall in love with him. I guess what you're saying here, guys, I get it. It just seems like you guys are always talking about dialogue. The fucking first 35, 50 minutes of the film, you're just watching a person watch a fucking person. You're like, what the fuck is going on
there's
here?
There's no dialogue to the whole goddamn movie. There must have been. It was. I mean, I'm watching it going, I might as well watch Drive. There's no.
I was thinking about that, because you always talk about Drive, and I'm like, I was about to say, if you're so about this fucking film, then you cannot talk shit about Drive.
And I'll tell you why there wasn't a lot of dialogue and why this movie is as popular as it is, and which I don't. I think that Eddie's right. I think we need to reevaluate some of these older movies, but this was the first movie to show color that was part of the story. But think about this. It was a little awkward, right? His suit at the very beginning of the movie. What color is his suit?
Brown.
Tell me, was it brown or was it like a plum?
Are you talking about when he was with Midge in the office?
When he was with Midge in the office.
I thought it was brown. I thought he was wearing the same fucking suit throughout the whole day.
I think it changed 3 or 4 times. I think it changed as he went through the town. I think sometimes it was brown, sometimes it was gray, sometimes it was like a plum color, like a deep plum. Yeah. And I think that the colors really fucked with the way that you're watching this movie. It's almost like now they're doing it a lot more, and I'm not a huge fan of it, is they'll take it and they'll do past and present in letterbox or in full screen. I feel like part of this was, like you said at the very beginning, Jeremiah, the colors dictated the state of mind. And I think that the characters changed their costumes and colors as the fucking film progressed to a point where it really made you go back and want to watch it again just to see what's going on.
Yeah. So Ed, you go first, then I got something.
Was he at all medicated? Did it say anything about him being medicated?
Yes.
It feels like he was because he was in a corset and had a cane. So I mean, hypothetically, he was. Yeah.
I felt like at times, like you say, like she disappeared and you didn't see it. So I was like, is this in his mind at this point? Was he like visualizing this? Was he making this up at his mind at times? And then the suit colors and everything, like all of a sudden, like he just like popped up. It was just, I was wondering, was he medicated at all? But I'm assuming he was. But
we don't get a really confirmation on that. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, is that Hitchcock? Is that his style of how he does stuff?
No, not really. Though Hitchcock's all about showing you the shit. You know,
there's a line, and he likes to like jump over it just a little bit. You know, kind of like flirt with it. Because I was going to ask you guys this.
He also likes to gaslight you. Sorry, Jeremiah.
No, because I was going to ask you this. Doesn't this movie kind of like flirt with the whole like necrophilia type of vibe? Because I was reading about Hitchcock saying that Ferguson can't bring himself to be with Judy because he wants every detail to look like his former lover of Madeline.
And even Judy's just like,
does it flirt like that? I mean, it's all about obsession.
I think it's obsession with the
past. Well, I don't know. That's what Hitchcock was like, quoted for saying and shit.
Yeah. So I do want to kind of jump off of that because that's kind of what I want to talk about. But I think it's interesting because I mean, if we just look at the Jimmy Stewart or James Stewart, whatever we want to call him, he is, I think, one of the most likable people on screen that you're ever going to see. I love seeing him on screen because he just makes me happy,
about this.
Right?
Okay.
Now, what I thought was interesting, I'm going to give this film and Hitchcock credit, and it's jumping off, Jared, what you said, is that he is shown to be an asshole, a controlling asshole, especially when he realizes that Judy is Judy, and he basically takes over and forces her to become this other thing that was part of the past. I think that that's an interesting move. It's kind of like for a while there, James Stewart was America's male sweetheart. And yet to take that lovable guy and to flip him on its head, I think is an interesting move. And I think it's a move to be commended. It's casting, well done casting.
Do you think that the film hurts with James Stewart and not with another actor? Do you think?
I do. I think the actor needed to be a little older and the actor needed to be less sweet. James Stewart was not sweet enough.
He was like 50 years old in this movie, right?
He was 50 and she was 27.
Yeah, maybe it was just he still looks young.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And I'll always see Jimmy Stewart as being young. But to your point, Brandon, this motherfucker drove two women crazy.
Yeah.
Because he also drove Midge crazy.
Yes.
He literally drove Midge out of her mind. And it's like, okay, so who's the real antagonist here? Who's the real person with the problem? Is it the women or is it him?
Yeah.
Because he's legitimately driving these women crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, this motherfucker goes and paints herself as the Contessa. And his reaction is like, you've overstepped the line. Yeah. Which is insane because he has created this reality where the Contessa is Kim Novak is, it's just like, we got to get back to because this is what I think the movie is about. And this is why I think the movie is somewhat brilliant, although I will say it has its flaws. Okay. To me, this movie is about one person trying to get back to the start of his problems. It's about Jimmy Stewart trying to find the impetus of his downfall, which is not the sudden realization that he's got vertigo. To me, his impetus is that he's a coward. He was a coward on the roof. He let the police officer fall because he wouldn't reach out his hand. Then he got vertigo. He was a coward in the bell tower when he wouldn't fight to save her, and he got vertigo. He is kind of a cowardly character who abuses women, and all of a sudden you've got this like manipulative, shitty, crazy person trying to get back to the reason why he's like that.
Yeah, I think that's interesting.
That's kind of what I drew from the movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, I my favorite character was Midge, and I felt so heartbroken for Midge. And then, though, for them, and I don't know if this is just, left on the editing floor, but for them to literally drop Midge as a character just halfway, 3/4 through the movie, I just felt like that was unresolved, and it sucked, and it just added to kind of, Sean, like we were saying, it's so segmented, it was convoluted.
She should have pushed her at the end.
That would have been fucking amazing.
She should have been in the bell tower and pushed her out.
Yeah, Jer?
Brandon, I got a thing for that. So what happened is that there was supposed to be a different ending into the end. You know that there's an alternate ending that you can actually watch, and the alternate ending is it doesn't end in the bell tower where him looking down at Judy's death.
Thank God.
What you see is that you go back to Midge's apartment and you hear the news that Gavin, the husband, is going to get arrested. You see Jimmy Stewart's character coming into her place, and he's just lost, vacant. You know what I'm saying? He's staring out there, and you see Midge going to him to support him. And that was the main part of the character, but it was removed for whatever fucking reason, because if you watch this alternate ending, it still fucking holds up because it's just room is silent. This understanding, like I'm going to be there for you, whatever is going to happen. Yeah. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see that.
And they abandoned the husband storyline. To me, they butchered the story. Yeah. And I'm a huge fan over substance over form. And Hitchcock is a form over substance guy. He doesn't care about the script. He wants it to look cool. He made obvious mistakes in movies like Psycho and Birds just to be cool, just to look cool, and fuck the story. That's what he does. Fuck the story, move on.
Fuck the story. That's
and in this one, I think he kind of chopped the story too much and focused on cinematography rather than the story.
Hey, Sean, I'm going to tell you a story. There's a quote that Cam Novak came up to Hitchcock and asked him, like, hey, what about this character development? And Kim pretty much said that Hitchcock told her, Jesus Christ, Kim, it's just a fucking movie. Get over it. We're just...
Yeah, but I think that's the kind of director he was.
That's just how he is. He's just like, don't fucking dive into it. We're filming a fucking movie and just deal with it.
I just want to fuck with people's mind. Like he had a theme to his style of movies. Now I like how you say that, Brandon, Sean. Like I see now, like fuck the strip at times. I would rather have cool scenes and twist the movie a little bit in my own little way. He was able to twist your mind a little bit. Like whoa, like what the fuck just happened?
It was twists for twist's sake.
Yeah, there's a great movie with Helen Mirren and Anthony Hopkins called Hitchcock, and it dove a little bit into him as a director. Yeah. And at one point, I want to say it was Cary Grant, but one of the actors asked Alfred Hitchcock not an actor but a film critic asked Hitchcock what the movie was about, and he said it's about love and excitement and thrills, and that's all you need. It's like. Yeah, that's kind of what it.
Was he ever diagnosed with anything like in his later years?
No.
I was wondering, like sometimes like
he was known as a fucking dick to a lot of fucking actors and actresses and shit, man.
Now let's talk about the ending, because to me, the film to me had already gone off the rails, but this was crashing into two brick walls. The fact that, and Jared, it makes sense that this wasn't the original ending, because literally the nun shows up, she jumps, he looks down, and it's credits. I thought that the pacing completely died at the end, and it left us there no edge of our seat. And for a thriller, you needed to be edge of our seat. And what I said earlier is I think that you guys are right, that he is just throwing at this point twists for twist's sake. Right? That what's the most crazy thing to do is let's have her just jump off and be for an innocent reason, because she thought that was death.
Yeah. What she thought that was death coming after her. What was that like?
It was almost like she was getting confronted of her sin, that she caused the death. She participated in the original wife's death, and she thought that death was coming for her in a way.
I think she was scared.
But can I ask you guys something? Do you feel like when Judy kind of breaks down and starts writing the note and actually explains what happened, do you think that kind of ruins the film? Where they could have just okay, shoot the scene in the end, explain what happened, rather than just kind of like we just found out right there, let it not like actually come out as a natural twist.
It was an exposition dump just to do it.
They needed to save that towards the end. They should have saved that. They should have saved that towards the end.
Okay,
that would have been revelatory.
I mean, he could have read the letter. He could have read the letter at the end.
Yeah.
And I will say this: and I'm not defending it, but this movie is at the infancy of movies. Hitchcock is out on a limb doing things that no one has done ever. No one has shown violence no one has shown violence on screen like Hitchcock showed violence. Nobody's shown intrigue. Nobody's showed color. Nobody's shown music. This guy is a revolutionary pioneer, and yeah, he just didn't give a fuck about the story. He's like, yeah, we need some exposition here. We're a little lost in the story. We need to be caught up. Let's have her write a letter and catch us up, and then we'll be fine.
So let me ask you something, guys. Do you think that her putting that necklace on was for her to actually kind of tell Ferguson, like, hey, I'm the same fucking person?
I don't think it couldn't have been accidental. It couldn't have been.
Because right there, after that scene, he loses it. It's just like, okay, you are fucking Madeline in a way, you know? Now it's like for certain, like, this is the real thing. Yeah. And then he has to prove a fucking point.
I don't think it could have been accidental. She knew.
I think part of it is they're feeding into his desire to control them. And this is part of his desire to control them, and therefore they are acquiescing to that control. When Midge paints herself as the countess or whatever, that's part of trying to dive into his fantasy or dive into his mind. And I don't know what it is about these women, but they're fucking desperate for him. He goes comatose after you find out that the wife died, and Midge like gets him back to health, like helps him, like controls, like, you know, it's just to me that these women are just like head over heels for a crazy man, a crazy man.
Yeah.
So Madeline had a chance to like leave town or something, right? But he pretty much picked her out of a crowd, like, and said, "You." Like from it, that I just felt like that was so weird. Like
San Francisco's a pretty big place. Like for the you mean you're talking about the odds of him finding her?
He picked her out. Again, yeah. He's like he picked her out like a whole like couple months later after he had a breakdown, and he's like,
did she seek him out? Did she seek him out because she was still in love with this motherfucker?
Honestly, I would love to see a remake of this movie, and I would love to see it.
It's called You.
Yeah, but I would love to see it done. I would love to see it done a little bit more with some nuance and some story, because this is a book, and apparently the book is really magnificent.
It was a French story, from my understanding, right? This was a French story. Yeah, like the original setting, it takes place in Paris, and like he decided, Hitchcock, to move it to San Francisco. Yeah. So I mean, kind of put his own little 2 cents there. Yeah. But it looks nice. I mean, when you watch this film, it's fucking beautifully shot. I'm not gonna lie.
The scene where she jumps into the water under the Golden Gate Bridge, to me, that is one of the, God bless America. Spielberg, Hitchcock has captured some of these iconic shots, right? So I don't know if we remember North by Northwest, but you've got the
I remember that
plane coming after, after Cary Grant. There's another scene, I think, where he captures the UN building. And he's getting shots of things that are unshootable at the time. Like now you've got drones and budgets and all this shit. It's like he's sneaking behind razor wire to catch these beautiful scenes that are uncatchable by any other director.
The sequoia, the forest. I mean, Jesus Christ! I'm like, holy shit!
Yeah,
this guy's
gorgeous.
Is that really the sequoia? Is that really the sequoias?
Yeah,
I wouldn't say it was.
I can't say that.
I mean, yeah, he's
and this is what I will say. Like later when we do Lawrence of Arabia, John Huston he didn't direct that, but they have this way of capturing the magnitude of open spaces, like massive deserts, massive sets. God dang it, Hitchcock has this way of capturing like city life and the way that the people move throughout the city. His angles are so seamless. It feels like you're watching a fresh new movie and not one from 1960.
Yeah, well, you know, talking about that, Sean, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Are all of Hitchcock's shots, at least in this film, are they all stationary? He doesn't have any moving camera, does he?
Because he does. He has a couple.
He has a couple. Because that's, to me, one of the things that stands out for this film is, like you said, he's capturing an image almost like it's a photograph, right? And he's not worrying so much about the nuances and the intricacies of the story. And I know we've kind of established that, but I take that and I move it to to Psycho 3 years later, right? Or 2 years later, whatever it is. And then you've got, these crazy camera movements. And I'm thinking of, the famous shower scene, right?
The shower scene.
You've got the camera is in there with her and it's close-ups and it's moving. And to me, it's a very different feel to a movie here. And I think that that's something that's really interesting. And it's obviously stylistically purposeful. I don't know if it helps though. What do you guys think?
Right.
Would it be better if we have more of the movement? It would kind of capture that idea of stalking, I think, a little bit more directly or maybe indirectly.
Stalking, obsession. I mean, you definitely get that vibe in this whole film, but it's so funny that you say that because I was reading about like some research about this film. And I guess like each shot averaged about 7.9 seconds for each shot that he was directing.
That's crazy.
So that's why I had that image vibe, that image like quality to it, because it almost felt like a photograph. Yeah. So it's fucking interesting, dude.
And if you want to move into the stalking arena, you got to watch Rear Window.
Yes.
Because Rear Window is voyeuristic. Oh. You're stuck in this window and you're watching all of these different. And I will say that I might have been an error picking this movie. I probably should have picked Rear Window, might have picked To Catch a Thief. But I think Vertigo was important. I think the colors were important. I think the storyline is important. He pushed the envelope in a lot of ways. But at the end of the day, I think that Eddie's right. We need to start reevaluating some of these older movies and going, you know what, just because they're classics, just because everyone has liked them for 25 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, does not mean that they should be under the same microscope or I would say same blind microscope as they've been under.
Yeah. And Eddie brought up a really great thing off mic the other day. And it's the fact that we have the AFI list. And I know that we've been talking about maybe capturing the AFI list on next season or something like that. But at the same time, when you look at these movies that have not left the AFI list, why? And I'm talking more in just a bigger picture. Why do you think it is that we're holding so desperately to Citizen Kane, to Vertigo, to even Psycho? Is it because they established, or is it because they're genuinely good? And this is me asking you guys honestly.
There's no movies in the 2000s in
Lord of the Rings.
The top,
you're right.
50 of the AFI.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings. And I mean, there are a few on the list for sure.
I think it has to deal with
but not in the top 50.
I think it has to deal with technical skills and how they impact how future generations been able to actually, move forward with, cinema. Because when you think about this particular movie, you have to think of like Spielberg, Scorsese, De Palma, where they're actually using the same techniques to really do their films, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and even the 2000s. So,
but just because you're the first, had a huge impact. Just because you're the first doesn't mean that it's great. And I'm not trying to bash it. And Sean, I know that I probably hurt your heart.
Yeah.
But my question is, should these films be held to such a high standard in 2023? Sean, what do you think? Because
I think that
maybe not.
I think for the most part, the AFI list. If you look at the AFI top 100 list. For the most part, these movies are iconically wonderful and deserve to be on the list. I think there's probably 40, that's probably aggressive, 20 of them that their time has come to go in a little vault and say they did this first, they did this amazing. City Lights, the Charlie Chaplin movies, like those type of movies need to be they need to move on into antiquity, and we need to start recognizing the brilliance of something like, of The Departed, or something like, you got to start letting in some of the newer, edgier, different types.
Interstellar.
Of
that's a good point.
Yeah,
Interstellar.
I didn't like Interstellar, but I understand. Inception. Yeah, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Inception. Yes.
And that brings us to the end of review. Now it's time in the podcast where each of the hosts provides a score on the following scale. Eddie, can you provide the scale, please? And don't lose yourself. Don't get all lost in vertical shit.
Whoa.
All right, 0, the perfect movie. You don't need shit to enjoy it. 1, a feel-good first cocktail. 2, a happy buzz. 3, you're going to Uber or lifting home. 4, a rough morning watch of shame. 5, blacked out, shit-faced, spring break drunk. Let's start with Brandon.
All right, so this movie is frustrating to me for multiple reasons. One, it's one of Sean's choice, and what I mean by that is that when I saw the movies that he suggested for this season from his picks, I was really super excited. And I still am, because these are a lot of the movies that he chose are movies that I haven't seen, but I feel like I've missed out on. And being, a cinephile and loving movies as much as I do, that these are some movies that I feel like I've missed out on. I should have watched, and I'm glad that I get a chance to. And Vertigo was one of the very first ones that I saw, and I got really excited about it. And I was excited about the first 20 minutes of it. Yeah, I know you guys are like, oh, there wasn't enough dialogue, and it's true, but it was setting a mood. And I thought, God damn, it's Hitchcock doing what Hitchcock does. And Rear Window is, to me, that's an absolute classic. It's one of my favorite older movies. And I think that that's brilliant. And I thought, man, Vertigo is kind of falling in that tradition. Cut to 3 nights later of me finally finishing this movie, because I basically passed out 2 nights in a row. And I know, Jerry, you can kind of appreciate that too. And It wasn't so much that it was a bad movie. It was a convoluted, what do I say? Nice. It was a convoluted mess is what it was. It had some good legs to stand on. And then all of a sudden it said, I don't really want to stand on them. I just want to sit back and just fuck with the audience's mind, just to fuck with the audience's mind. And that pisses me off. When you have filmmakers that are trying to just mess with us just for fun. And I think this is where M. Night Shyamalan has fallen short. And that's the vibe that I got here. Yeah. Shauna, you brought up some great reasons in this idea of, the color changing, and is it in his mind? And a question that I want to know is, how did he actually climb up from the rooftop when he's dangling there at the beginning? Like, is this one of those light flashes before your eyes, Jacob's ladder type shit before he dies? All that to say is, there were great bones,
that's a trip,
and then the muscle just fucking fell off of the bones, and then the skin just fell off the bones. And by the end, I literally laughed at the end. I turned over, looked at a man, and I said, what the fuck was that? That was 3 or 2.5 hours of wasted potential. And I know that I'm going on and on. I'm just going to give this a straight 4. I thought that it has some great, foundational film cinematography. It's got James Stewart, and so a James Stewart film to me can't be a 5, but man, it's fucking close, and I want to make it a higher than that, but I'm going to go with a 4 on this one. And I talk too much, so I'm going to go to Eddie, because Eddie likes to talk too.
Thank you, Brandon. You definitely know how to keep it nice and long. You got me a little vertigo there. So this is my first time watching this, Sean, and so I was actually really excited when you put this movie on the list. It says something about, even though like it's not a movie that I like in the long aspect of all the movies, my type of movies, I still give it respect, and it's on there for a reason. And James Stewart, it was just like, Kim Novak. I liked the idea of this movie. I wanted to see what it was all about, and I do say thank you for letting me open up my horizons on this movie. I knew very little about this movie, so I didn't realize how mysterious and suspenseful it was going to be, and I knew it was going to be romance in there, and then it just became like this weird hypnotizing vibe of the movie, and I didn't know what was real, what was fake. I started like making up this own plot in my head. I don't know if that was part of the movie. All in all, I feel like it does lack a lot of character development and dialogue for me, as how that's something now I think you guys have grown into when I look in the movies, and this movie just doesn't have it for me in the long picture of things. I do feel like it keeps your head spinning. Alfred is ahead of it at the time of doing that, so because of that, I'm probably going to knock it down a little bit because of that, and it won't be so hard on the movie. There wasn't many movies like this that those colors in the red room. Like, I understand, Sean, if you have a red room in your house now because of this movie. I like what Brandon was saying. Like, the very end, they were just like that last minute, they just threw a big, like, they just crumbled up the papers and tossed it at you, say, you decide what you want to do with it, how we want to end it. It is what it is, and I'm happy I still watched it. So I'm going to give this a 3.75. It's one of my, it's a lower score of my movies, but I'm going to give this a 3.75. That is you're the Uber lifting home, and almost to the rough morning walk of shame for me. So I'm going to do a 3.75. Jeremiah.
Yeah. So I have to say this film was fucking stunning visually. You know what I'm saying? The look, the colors, the direction of the technique and everything. I would even say that's one of like Hitchcock's better directing films. Technically, when you think about it, the first half of the movie I thought was really fucking great. Because it had like this kind of creepy supernatural vibe, which I was really fucking digging. And then all of a sudden it turns to like this fucking lunatic, back crazy shit, obsessive man that loses his sanity, you know?
I like that part.
Well, it just comes, for me, it just comes out of left field. I'm like, okay, what did I miss and shit? You know what I'm saying? However, this film inspired many generations of fucking directors, and you got to give it fucking respect. And I've just been thinking about this as we're talking about this movie, is that this movie has a haunting effect. I don't know what it is, you know what I'm saying? But it's a couple days later, and I'm still thinking about this fucking movie. And if a movie makes me think about it time after time, then it must have done something well, right? So for me, I think there's an appreciation to this fucking film that if I could probably watch this over and over with, I'm probably going to be really fucking about this film. So for me, this is a 2.75 because I really like the vibe of it. I like the theory of it, but for some reason, it's just like it's still fucking with my mind. And if a movie fucks with your mind, then it did something for you, and I have to fucking respect that for what it's done. So it's weird.
How many times did it take you to finish this movie?
It took me 2 days. Don't get me wrong, man. It fucking dragged, but the ending for some reason really got to me, and I don't know what it is, to the point where I keep thinking about it. I'm like doing work, and I'm like, fuck, that movie was so fucked up. What the fuck? However, if a movie does that to you, you have to pay it respect. There is some type of a vibe to it. So that's how I'm coming out of it, man. A 2.75.
Respect.
So Eddie, you had made a comment earlier that it took you 3 nights to finish or 2 nights to finish, and 2 nights.
2 nights.
Brandon, I think it took you 2. Jeremiah took you 2. We have had podcasts on here where we've liked the movie. Something like, I remember The Hangover, where you get 20 minutes into talking about the movie and there's nothing left to talk about. This movie was intriguing and it gave you a lot to think about. And it makes me want to watch it again to see what I missed and to dive into it a little deeper and to see if there was some nuance that I hadn't seen before. But that doesn't mean it was great. It just means that this is an interesting movie, and I can see why it's where it is on the list. Now, you will be happy to know that on the 10th anniversary of the 100 Best Movies, it's not on it anymore for AFI.
You've opened up my eyes with movies, though, Sean.
I will say these older movies are hard to score for me because they're part of who I am. This is where film was built. I am a fan of the way that they constructed these old films. That being said, I think that you're absolutely correct. The ending was dog shit. The pacing was all over the place. The character development left you wanting, didn't know really where the characters were going, whether that was intentional or not. This movie gave you the concept that the titular character in Jimmy Stewart was a little crazy. Didn't really know what the fuck was going on, was gaslighting himself, was a coward, was all these things. If it turned out to be all in his head, I would not have been surprised. With that, I think this was the beginning of letting film and letting cinema run away with the audience, as opposed to trying to tell a cohesive, consistent story with the beginning, middle, and end. And for that, I think it should be commended. I don't think it's a 1 or 2. Don't get me. I'm not going to go that high or low. I think this is I'm right with Jeremy. I think it's a 2.75. I think this movie is below average, but still iconic, still absolutely necessary in the pantheon of film. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I think it was wonderful, a wonderful experience, even if it wasn't a wonderfully great movie. So when we take those 4 and divide by 4, what does Vertigo get an average rating of, Eduardo?
It gives us a 3.3125. 3.3125.
And Jeremy, where does that put us on the list of movies that we've reviewed?
Why do you?
Because it's next to something that it shouldn't be.
It's a score of its own. It's right between 2 films. It's right between Halloween and Point Break.
Oh. In that case, as Sean would say, this is exactly where it should be.
Halloween's that low? How do we rate Halloween that low? That's such a
great movie. Brandon wasn't happy with it.
If you were to say Great Gatsby along with those other 2, I'd be like, you know what?
Oh no! See, I'd rather watch this movie 1,000 times than The Great Gatsby. I'm sorry. I'd rather watch this movie 1,000 times.
Did Brandon give Halloween an actual 5 or like something like
no,
was
he
like
one of those weird
like
ones,
a 7
like,
or
no, it's
8?
like 4.85 or some shit like that.
Because I didn't want to hurt Eddie enough.
All right.
So, yeah, that's the score, guys.
If you enjoyed our review or a fan of the podcast, we ask that you please subscribe wherever you're listening and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. You can also find us on Instagram at the Gentleman Podcast. The dot means a lot. You can visit our website, thegentlemanpodcast.com, or if you want to reach out to us by email, you can do so at hosts with an S, HOSTS, at thegentlemanpodcast.com. As we plot our way through season, what is this, season 3 or 4?
We've been doing this a while.
4. Holy cow. Well, thank you for not trashing that film too bad, gentlemen, and we'll say good night for now. Cheers, and we'll see you next week.
Salud.
Cheers.
See you next week, guys.
Cheers. Shitty ass drink too, by the way.
Your drink, man. God, fuck, yo. I hope you like glass in your drink.